Today we're going to be showcasing our Vanish shaver. This shaver is a really good tool to have behind the chair when working with our guests who like to have very short haircuts and also have longevity for their haircuts. I know along the years we've really worked our way up to so many different haircuts where shorter lengths and skin fades are very, very popular. So today I'm going to be using my guest and my model, Ray. He's a close friend of mine. Ray does get a haircut weekly. So this is a great person to have as a model because we do get guests that come very frequently, especially with short haircuts. So when working with haircuts of shorter lengths, we also need to remember the skin. One thing that this tool features is a gold foil on top. What this is, it's hypoallergenic and allows for us to get a closer shave without harming our client's skin as well as our tool. The way this tool works, we've got blades on the inside, which vibrate side to side, and the gold foil allows the hair to be fed through it. So today we're going to be doing a very high fade on Ray. I'm just going to turn him over for you guys to see. And I'll give you a nice spin around of his hair. And we can see he likes his hair fairly short all the way around. So when we're placing the fade on our clients and our guests, we have to remember that the distance between the parietal ridge to the ear is what we need to focus on. So this can be different with every guest. Now, if we have guests with a shorter length span in between the ear to the parietal ridge, we're going to have a shorter and a tighter fade. Whereas with guests with a longer length span between the parietal ridge and the ear, such as Ray today, we're going to have more room to be able to go a little higher and play with our fade and stretch it out. Today, we're going to be doing about a mid-high, starting right at the recession point and where his hairline naturally wants to do that C-cup around the sideburn. So to begin, we're going to be using our liner, our Wahl detailer, and this is a crucial step when we're introducing a shaver into our routine when we're cutting hair. So when I'm starting this, I'm going to start from the bottom to the up. One thing that I love to teach and say over and over again is where we start is always going to be our beginning point. A lot of the times I do notice as we are working our way and getting a little bit more comfortable into shorter haircuts, a lot of the times I do see people kind of start in the center of the head and work our way up. What this does, it gives us room for error and also to take majority of that weight off, which we want to keep around that parietal ridge. Because shorter haircuts, we want more linear, we want very rectangular, square haircuts with a lot of weight around that parietal ridge. Okay, so let's get started. And as I'm doing this bottom part, I'm making sure that I'm working in consistent strokes, making sure that every single hair is taken off to the shortest length possible. Now, because Ray has had his haircut very early on, I think we cut his hair on Friday, we don't have much to cut, but you guys will be able to see how close that foil shaver will get us to the skin. It can be a little bit daunting when we're introducing new tools into our arsenal, but my favorite 3 tools would have to be the liner, the shaver, and just to have an all-around universal clipper that we can use not only for debulking, but also for fading. And I'll showcase that a little bit later. Making sure our guests always have their head position in an upright position allows us to give a very consistent fade all the way around. When we get our guests to kind of lean their head forwards, what it does is stretches the skin out on the scalp, and it changes where our fade is naturally laying. And sometimes to the naked eye, when your head is down, it may look a lot more faded than what it actually is. As you can see, I'm doing very gentle. I'm not applying any pressure. Our tools are meant to take off hair. So when we're applying pressure, we're causing irritation to the skin, nothing more. This wall detailer that I'm using today is also part of our new collection. It comes with the black magic clip, which is my other tool that I love to use. It's nice to have the three paired because they're all black and it looks aesthetically pleasing. Now that I've done my shave and I'm going over those spots again, just to ensure that I've gotten everything off. I want to make sure I have a clean canvas to work with at all times. I'm going to dust my guest off and check for symmetry. So I'm going to get him to face towards me to see that I can see the guideline is straight all the way around. Another great tip that you can use is using the facial features and using his head as a reference point, right? So like I said, we were going to be working around the center of the sideburn and work all the way around. Use the occipital bone as well as the curve of that sideburn again on the other side. And just like that, I was able to knock out half the time of guessing to see where I placed my fade or my guideline on the other side. So now here comes the fun tool. What you want to do with this tool is always make sure that it's clean. So you can take the top off, do a little tap, make sure that you have no dust, no debris on the inside. And you can put this screen head back on. This screen head it's gold foil and it's very, very thin. So when we're using this, we want to make sure that we're not applying too much pressure. When we apply too much pressure, what happens is the foil on top will touch the blades underneath and it'll cause abrasion and cause for tears. And those tears are really bad because they will hurt our guests. I actually just recently dropped my vanish and I had torn just the corner of this and had to get it replaced. Also for the replacement hats, it does come with an extra blade on the inside as well. So you can change the whole mechanism out, which is really, really great. So to begin, I do like using my shaver right side up. I'll be using just the one foil for now as I'm working around the smaller, tighter areas. And then as I'm working in the larger areas, I do tend to spin my foil shaver around just so that I can get a cleaner all the way around shave. And with the two foils that are very large, as you can see, you cover a lot more surface area, which is really, really good when we're giving haircuts. We know what the guest wants. We want to be in and out of the chair, making sure that we're giving clean, concise, even haircuts all the way around. This is one of my favorite tools. Also for clients that want to do their beards, have sensitive skin, it's a really, really good tool to use all around. Let's turn right. So now when I'm working top down, what I like to do is make sure that I'm staying just about a millimeter underneath my original guideline. That way I'm ensuring that I'm going to have a very blurry fade and consistency all the way across to make sure that it doesn't go too high. As you can see, I quickly flipped it. It's very lightweight in order for me to not have to turn it and stop my tool while I'm using it. Let's see if I can tap on this. I don't know if it's a little too bright for you guys to see, but if you can see the difference between here and the other side of his head, this side is a lot smoother, almost as if we've taken like a razor blade or a shaving with shave cream to go across. It's very smooth. It takes about an extra 3, 4 days, depending on how fast our guest's hair grows, for that hair to have that longevity. So again, like I said before, when we were doing haircuts, a lot of it was still longer lengths, whereas now clients want to go shorter. So we need a tool that allows us to go very short and use it a lot behind the chair. I am working in that same motion of that C-scoop motion as if I were using a regular traditional clipper. And what this does is it goes against the grain, making sure that the hair is very short. I do also like to kind of graze the back of the head with my like fingers to see if I have any stubble that I feel. Typically around the nape of the neck, hair growth does grow in different patterns. So I like to kind of feel, and right about here, I can feel a little extra hair. So just go against the grain there. And just like that, we've used the foil shaver to make sure that he's got clean scalp all the way around. If you see me leaning back this way, I'm grabbing my tools to make sure that I got everything that I need. So now my next step would be to start my fade. I've put the groundwork down, made sure that the part that takes the longest is done right off the bat. When we're working behind the chair, we want to work very efficiently. We don't want people waiting for us. We want to make sure that we are also giving our guests a very good experience where they're not sitting in the chair for 2 hours, right? It can be a little bit agonizing to sit in the chair for that long. So doing shorter haircuts allows us that quick turnover time, and it also gives us a lot of times clients want to come back. Guests want to make sure that they're getting the same barber, stylist, anybody working on their head. So it's easy to earn trust around that. So the method that I like to use when I'm doing my fade is a skip guard method. And what this method does is allows for me to not take my fade too high and ensures that I'm working one step forward and one step back. This also allows me to have a very detailed fade all the way around and consistency to make sure that even through those dark spots and those divots around the head and the scalp, I'm still working through that. So easy way to remember how to do that is by setting your guides with your whole numbers and fading with your half numbers. So that would be setting your guides with your 1, 2, 3, and then fading with your 1.5, 0.5s, stuff like that. So to begin, I'm going to put my one guard on here and I'm going to have my lever all the way open. Open lever meaning a little bit more length compared to closed lever. We always want to have a little bit longer because it'll help us to, again, save ourselves if we're feeling like we're taking our fade too high. Again, Ray gets a haircut weekly, so I don't think we'll have that much hair to remove, but just to be sure, we're going to still go in with our one guard. Working about 1/2 inch to 1 inch up because remember, as in the beginning, we said from the tip of the ear to the parietal ridge, we do have a lot of surface area that we can fade in.
Hey, Munny, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So when you're working on a fade this close and you have a customer that has an area in the back where there's our rolls, how would you handle that?
That's a great question, Sharon. Thank you for asking. When we do have when we have customers with rolls or different divots, a lot of the times I notice as well, right behind the ear, there's a little bit of like a indentation just from the natural way the skull kind of forms, I guess. But what you can do is don't forget that you can use your non-dominant hand to stretch the scalp, to stretch the skin, even get your customer to put their head down. That way you can stretch that skin out and go just a tad bit shorter underneath that way or over that spot, because when they start lifting their head up to natural position, it will shrink back into place. And also making sure that we're using the corners of our blade as well, right? A head is round. Our clippers, our tools are straight across. So in order for us to get a rounded shape using straight tools, we have to manipulate our clipper to be able to do things that we want it to by moving it corner to corner. So now typically what I like to do is kind of work in a diagonal back section. So when I'm working on the left side, I would turn my clipper towards the right. And then as I'm working on the left side, or sorry, the right side, I turn it towards the right. So as we can see here, when we're working in the front of the ear, we have less density. So I was not cutting anything off with my one guard. But as I'm working in the back of the head, I was able to create a guideline because hair is a lot more dense and grows faster. These are really crucial things to remember when we're doing short hair because, like I said, we're working on scalp and we got to make sure that it's looking even all the way around. So when we have more density in the back and less density in the front, what do? We have to make sure we're taking off just a tad bit less hair in the back and a little bit more in the front. Now that we're done with our one guard, we're going to take a step back and fade with our 0.5. 0.5, I like to start all the way open with the lever and work just below that one guide that we've created. As we're working our way down, I like to slowly close the lever because what it does, it creates that nice gradient without having to work too hard on that. So starting at the front, just below that guideline. And again, the front, I'm not cutting anything. So now I automatically know the only way I'm going to be cutting hair around that area is if I'm using no guard or my liner, my detailer. And as you can see, I'm working around the curve of the head using only the corner of my blade to kind of etch away those tiny little areas. And if at first I'm not cutting anything, try again. And if I'm still not cutting anything, then we're slowly going to close our clipper, our lever. You can see I'm using very, very small strokes. I'm going to switch from a comb to my brush to make sure that the surface area is very clean. And I'm removing those finer hairs that can get caught in the short hairs that we're cutting. You got to keep your head up like that. The lighting is right on your head. So for myself, just to give you guys a little bit of to get to know me, I am from Toronto, Canada, and I've been working with Wahl for about 5 years, I want to say, maybe more, depending on if we're counting COVID or not. And I've been cutting for about 10 years professionally, and another maybe two before that. I started at a really young age. I want to say mid high school, and it stemmed from being fairly good at art and just seeing how I can apply my abilities to the real world and make some money on, obviously, to make sure that we can feed ourselves. But it became something that I really enjoyed and loved doing because even though the rules of a fade are the same all the way around, just working on different customers and seeing how much it changes somebody's confidence and the way they look really just fed my soul and felt like I was helping people to build that confidence and feel good about themselves and understand that everybody's hair is customizable and for them. Okay, I still see a line, but I do see that we're slowly fading that a little bit nicer. And the front also looks a lot more blended. See how we're already kind of working that line away, having some space here so that we can give them nice definition all the way across. I'm gonna double check my work to make sure that I'm not able to cut anything and I'm slowly closing my lever. Okay, from the sounds of it, I'm not cutting any more hair. So I'm gonna remove my guard and now it's only the lever that I'm gonna be playing with. Starting from the front with our lever all the way open. This is where the detail work of each haircut happens. This is where my haircut is different from Ray's haircut. Ray's haircut is different from our other barbers' haircuts, right? Because what I see is perception to my eye, like perceptive to my eye. And it's just training our eye to be able to see different dark spots and work through light spots, different densities, and stuff like that. Again, I'm using the corner of my blade. Slowly closing my lever as I'm working down. That looks good to me so far. We do have a little bit of a line down here, but we're not even going to stress about that because we know we can take another step back and take that out with our trimmer. One thing I love about using my Magic Clip as well, it's got a great runtime for about 120 minutes. It takes, I want to say, less than an hour to charge. And it's great for using behind the chair because having clients with or customers with very, very thick hair, this tool allows me to not only remove majority of that bulk, but also be able to fade featuring a stagger tooth blade. So what that means is our cutting blade is almost like a thinning shear, giving us very soft finishes compared to, say, a senior, which features a surgical blade, which is very straightforward surgical lines, right? And when we're doing fades, we want that softness, we want that gradient. So why not use a clipper that features that? Kind of takes half of that guessing game out and does the work for us, which is great when we're behind the chair, right? Efficiency is always key when working. Okay, now that I've double checked my work, we see there's a tiny little guideline just underneath. Go in with my trimmer. Again, using the corners of the blade to just make sure I'm not removing too much hair. And I'm also making sure that I do not go past that midway line that I have created for myself, just using the corner to kind of etch away at that bottom little line. Cut up a little more. Another thing I want you guys to notice is how lightly I'm holding my tools. It's it's a very loose grip, and I'm just letting it kind of flow and do its thing for me. Again, like I said, these tools are meant to do the work for us. There is no need for me to kind of having his head in my hand to position, and there is no need for me to even like stretch the skin because it does all the work for me. Unless, like Sharon said earlier, I'm working through areas where there are extra skin or just differences in the scalp. One thing you guys also have to remember is body position. When we are doing fades and shorter haircuts, we want to be right in front of our area that we're working at. Okay, let's spin right back around and take a look at that bottom line. You guys can see the very smallest gradient just kind of happening all the way around. And we see symmetry. So now on to our next step. Next step will be a 2. And the 2, because we are keeping his hair very short on the top, we're going to try to go all the way up with the 2 instead of just below, because we don't have too much bulk to remove. Switching over to my comb again, because we're working with longer lengths. Lever all the way open, and I'm going to go just hit that line. So when we're working with guards, we have to remember it is this part of the scalp of the guard that we want on scalp at all times. And if it does come off, let it come off naturally. Do not try to force it into the scalp, because what that will do, it'll remove too much weight that we don't want to. I'm hearing the smallest hairs being cut, which is good. We know that Ray gets a haircut every week, so we aren't going to have much hair to cut anyways, but the fact that it is cutting hair, we're going to still go in and not switch to a shorter guard. Again, with this guard, we're going to go about an inch, almost an inch and a half, because we have a lot of room to work with. Did you say something, Sharon?
I'm so sorry. Yes. So I have a question for you.
Yep.
And that is, how do you encourage your customers to come back like more often so that you can just get them into a maintenance routine?
The best way I would recommend to do that is also when we're speaking to our customers, we're not only just cutting hair, we're also getting to know our customers, right? Learning to see what kind of jobs they do, what kind of lifestyle they have, and how they kind of carry themselves, right? We are obviously going to have clients that, because of budget or because of just not having a lifestyle where their hair is their main priority. That being put aside, we do have our customers that we want to bring in all the time. You know, hey Ray, I know you like your hair really short, and maybe 2 weeks is a little bit too long for you because I see how fast your hair grows. Even now, a week in, look how much hair we've taken off. I know that you do real estate for a living, so you're always facing customers as well yourself. So, you know, I think having that look to go with what you do would be something great. Even if you come in for a little touch up once a week, you know, just making sure that we our thought process is to make sure that our customer is receiving the best from us, right? If we're wording it in a way where we seem like we're taking more than we're giving, it'll be a lot harder to get our customers to come back on a weekly basis. So I think really just letting your personality show through and being for the customer instead of for yourself, right? And understanding, hey, you know what, Ray, also I noticed that you got a little bit of a cowlick on this side. Is it difficult for you to style when you're at home? Well, you know what, Money, once I hit that 2 week mark, it does get a little bit difficult for me to style it. I do have to use a little bit of extra product. Sorry, I don't know if you could hear me with the clipper going as well, but being able to have these regular conversations and just turning our brains to be able to think about how can we help our guests help themselves behind whatever they're doing at home or their home routine. And that's the only way that we're going to be able to work harder and better and make sure that our guests come back, right? I always, even to this day, working for 10 years um, plus, I still ask my clients, is there anything that you're having difficulty at home with when styling your hair, when working with your facial hair? Well, you know what, Money? My beard gets a little bit too dry, and my wife says that it hurts. Here's some beard oil. Maybe you could use that. Here's some different types of products that you could use. What kind of shampoos? And like having all these conversations really builds that trust with your clients and customers. Back to that haircut, we're just going to go in with that two guard, make sure that even though we did hear hair cutting in the beginning, just to make sure that I go over again, double check my work, and now I'm not hearing much. So to blend the top of the hair into the sides, this is actually a perfect view for you guys. You see the back over here, we've got his scalp, the occipital bone coming out, and then we've got extra weight right on the side here, on the back here. So what we can do is use our comb, insert it in the hair, and just with that guard on as well to ensure extra safety to make sure that we're not going too deep into that hair. Remove all that extra excess weight. And now you can see it's looking a lot more crisp, having a very rectangular shape from the back. When we're using clipper over comb method, we want to make sure that, again, the bone of the comb is what we're focused on when working with the hair. And once that hair starts to overlap and kind of crisscross in over itself, that's when you start to cut. So insert the comb, and right about there, I can see that the hair in the comb is kind of starting to feed in on itself. And that's where we cut. So again, right there, and just the tips are taking off. Okay, now that we're done with our two, we're gonna fade, and to fade with, we're gonna use our 1.5 guard. 1.5 guard all the way open, work just below that line that we set. And we can see the front of his hair already looks so faded because the density changed, and just because we did that little bit of work with the liner at the bottom. So realistically, all we're really worried about and focused on is the back of the head. Using my corners to knock out that line. So because we have a lot of space between the ear and the parietal ridge, and we're only fading up till a 2, our 0 to a 2 is going to be a very large space. And as I'm going down, I'm just closing the lever and working down. I'm gonna rotate him and do the same thing here. Lever open, go all the way up, and work my way down. So same in this section, just as we did previously, we're gonna have to go back in with our 1, maybe even our 0.5 to see how low we can get that fade. Again, on this side, we're looking very faded, so we don't have much to fade there. Now my lever is all the way closed and I'm just working towards the back. Switching over to my brush again to make sure that I have a clean surface area. Now with my lever all the way closed, I'm just gonna go in with my clipper just at the bottom part of that head to make sure that I've got every little bit of hair to make sure that it's consistent. And I'm still hearing haircut even with my 1.5 guard. So I'm gonna keep going until I don't hear any haircut. Just grabbing my 1 guard, tossing that on, lever all the way open, and working just at that bottom. And I'm almost spot treating as I'm doing this. We see a little extra density right in that area. So what are we gonna do in that area? We're gonna use our 0.5, work our way down. And look at that. Just like that, our fade is coming together. So when I'm doing this, I'm only focused on that bottom line because everything above that is faded and everything below that is gone. So this is our only line that we have to worry about now. And we've also knocked a step out of our cutting because we've already blended that top using that clipper over comb method. A haircut like this, typically behind the chair, should take us no longer than about half an hour, especially if we're focused on the fade and making sure that it works out it looks good. Because when we're thinking about fading hair, like I said, the steps are always going to be the same, but it's really that trained eye to see detail and to be able to work and spot treat around that. So the way I like to break up my fade, not the top of the hair, just the fade, I do about 7 minutes when it comes to debulking, making sure that this is all taken off, as well as to fade, or sorry, set my guides about 7 minutes. And then I'm using another maybe 7 to 8 minutes to do detail work. So more than half the time should be spent on doing detail work, right? Because like I said, 1, 2, 3.5, 1.5, that's how you fade. And then being able to work through the ridges, the densities, and the different parts of the head is what allows us to train our eye and make sure that your haircut and your signature cuts are different than mine, right? I'm just following through those same steps. Again, with the one guard, I'm still hearing the hair cut. So I'm going to keep going in those spots where I see extra density to cut that hair. Okay, now I'm not hearing much. I'm going to switch over into my 0.5 and finish up that haircut. And turn them around towards you guys. So right in here, I see that little bit of density. That's where I'm going to go in. So I'm sure you guys could see I'm kind of breaking the rules right now because we set our guides earlier and now I'm using my 0.5 where we would say have done a 1.5. Why? Why am I doing that? Because I have trained my eye to be able to see that even though I've set my guides, I have to now use my own eye to understand that I'm spot treating, right? Because he has more density here, even if I use a 0.5 in that 1.5 area, it will still look like a 1.5. And this is the beauty about barbering and styling. We're able to learn all these rules about art and apply them personalized to our clients to make sure that every haircut is different, even though all the methods are the same. And just like that, we have that fade on that side. And we're going to do the same back here. Playing with my lever, right? Starting off with it open and then slowly closing it to see if that works better, if it cuts more hair, if it makes it look nicer. This is where you spend the time, right? This is where you use your mirror, you rotate your client to see how the hair looks to make sure that it looks good all the way around. I'm actually using my camera screen to see if I see any hairs that I personally want to get rid of as well. And typically a lot of the time will be spent on the back of the head because there are so many different grooves in the head, different densities, so much more density. So you want to give it that extra little love towards the back. And look at that. That side looks completely faded. I might even need to go in with just my clipper on the back of that head. Slowly closing my lever as I'm working on that spot. Toss that 0.5 back on. All right, that looks perfect to me. I'm gonna dust them off and do our lineup. When we're lining our clients up, we want to make sure that, oh, where did I put my liner? We want to make sure that we're following the natural growth of the hair, because if we go too far in, the grow out process of that hair is going to be not pleasant to look at, and maybe even hard for our customers to deal with when they're working with their hair at home. So you always want to follow that natural curve of the head. So I can see that he's got a very harsh line, which Ray likes to have his lines very prominent around the front of the hairline. So we're going to follow exactly what he's doing there. Using my fingers to stabilize myself, almost as if we're using a protractor. We have our one needle that stabilizes, and then we're rotating with the rest of it. So just kind of stand over here and show you guys. So I'm going to be using my middle knuckle to stabilize myself and just pivot all the way across. This is a great way to do lineups around the ear as well, if we have clients that want to have a little bit of a longer hair length, to work around that. So again, you'll see me place my knuckle on his face and just line that up. Brushing the other hair over and working to create a very sharp edge. And we're going to do the same on the other side. And turn him over this way. You guys can see I'm using my clipper turned over. That way I make sure that I'm getting nice clean lines all the way across. I'm going to walk around, step over in front of him. Don't be afraid to change your body position to be able to see what you're doing and make sure that your customer is getting a great haircut. My customer has been working 12 hours straight, so he's a little tired. And we're just going to create a nice corner right around here. Again, using his facial features to make sure that I have symmetry all the way across. Another thing you guys can do with your trimmer is, if you want to create some texture, hold his hair as if you were doing a regular haircut and kind of notch away at it. And that gives you some extra texture right in the front of the hair. Standing in front of him just to make sure that everything looks perfect. Give you a nice spin. Chin up for me. And there you guys have it. That's how you do a mid fade using the Wahl Vanish Magic Clip as well as the Vanish Magic Clip as well as the Vanish Magic Clip as well as the. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to shoot me a follow on Munny Cuts, MUNNYCUTZ,
Hey,
as well
Munny?
as follow Wahl. Yes.
Yes. So this is Sharon. And before you go, I'm wondering if you could just really quickly talk about the shaver more from the perspective, a cosmetologist perspective, because one of their struggles is that they're under the misconception that they're not allowed to use them.
Oh, you can absolutely use the shavers. It's a great tool to have behind the chair. When we even do longer hair lengths and we're working with cowlicks on the back of the head and stuff like that, it's a really, really good tool to have in our arsenal, just to be able to get those finishing touches and make sure that we're getting the longest wear out of our hair, right? Again, the vanish is only to be used after we use the trimmer. So if you want clients with very, very short hair and also clients with curly hair, sometimes when we're doing shorter haircuts on curly hair, there are certain tools that we're not able to use. But because this is hypoallergenic and also is gold plated, we're able to use it on sensitive skin. Don't be afraid of the vanish. It's actually a very safe tool to use. It doesn't use a lot of power. You can use it very gently on all your clients. And even the charge, it tells you when you have it on how much battery life you have left, right? It runs throughout the entire day, it has a very strong charge, and it takes about 50 minutes to get a full charge on it as well. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to use your vanish to just finish off those haircuts and put that little cherry on top when we're doing our haircuts. Your customers will notice a huge difference when using them as well. Make sure we're using clean tools, and also our customers have clean hair as well when we're using it. Yeah, is there anything else, Sharon, that you wanted me to add?
Nope, I think we're good.
Thank you again. Thank you all for watching. Thank you, Ray, for being a great model. Like I was saying, don't forget to follow Wahl Pro, Wall of Fame on Instagram, as well as try to log into their website, Education Wahl Global. That website features so many different tutorials on how to do different haircuts and use different Wahl tools as well. Majority of them are free. Some of them are about $5 to $10 as well. And again, my Instagram handle is also MUNNYCUTZ. Thank you guys for having me, and have a great rest of your day.